Monday night, going to be a movie. We will be in attendance. Looking forward to seeing a lot of y'all there. Michigan, Washington, primetime, NRG Stadium. It's time for our final thoughts on this game. Let's start with Michigan. Blake Corm is going to get his. I have a very difficult time believing that in a spot like this, with a team like Michigan, who all season long has just continued to double down on who they are, they don't feed Blake Corm consistently. In a game like this, you don't stray from your identity. And I think Michigan did a good job of not doing that against Alabama in spite of their special teams mistakes. They continued to feed the ball to number 2. He's your leader. He's your bell cow. And to be honest, Washington, we've talked about it a few times here, defensively on the line of scrimmage, they're not great. Just ask Texas. They ran the ball for 6 yards a carry. Regardless of the final score, I expect Blake Corm to get a healthy dose of carries and to eat greedy while he does it. So Blake Corm will get his. Now for J.J. McCarthy, I think this is his Reggie Miller game. And what I mean by that is there's a time to play and there's a time to win. Right now, this is winning time for J.J. McCarthy. Because all offseason long, we said this and we're going to say it again right now. There were so many of us that asked, well, yeah, they got a good line of scrimmage. Yeah, they got a good defense, but is number 9 good enough? We saw him throw 2 pick sixes in the college football playoff last year. Is he going to be good enough in this spot? I think he has to prove that he's good enough. And I think there will be multiple spots here for J.J. McCarthy against Washington to prove that. He proved it in the Rose Bowl, I thought. And it doesn't mean it has to be J.J. McCarthy throwing for 400 yards. Doesn't mean that he has to just be playing 7-on-7 out there. But I do think to win this game, they're going to have to complete some passes on 3rd and 7. On, 3rd and 9 even. There's going to be some spots like that. Maybe not all the time, but enough to where it's timely to where he has to show up in a big way and deliver for you. It might also be with his legs. The way that he played in that Rose Bowl, I felt like it was him just willing himself and willing this team, quite frankly. His run on that final drive, the way that he took a shot and pretty much didn't even see where he was throwing the football in that trick play earlier on in the game. This is a game where you're going to empty the tank if you're J.J. McCarthy. You empty the tank regardless because it's the national championship, for goodness sake, but this is the spot where he defines his legacy at Michigan. He's already got a great one, but this would be, I think, one of those, hey, put him on the Mount Rushmore of Michigan quarterbacks up there with Tom Brady and company. Expect Michigan defensively to be really physical with these Washington wide receivers. One, because that's who Michigan has been in this defense under Jesse Minter. They're going to mix it up on the outside. They've got good length between Wallace and Will Johnson. They're going to push them as much as possible. One, because of who they are. Two, I think you have to do that against Washington. You have to. You cannot give them a ton of cushion and allow them to get that quick game going. Because if they get that quick game going, if they're able to get in rhythm, it's going to be a long night. So look for them to be disruptive early and often. But keep an eye on the success rate they have with putting hands on these wide receivers for Washington. Because being physical is phenomenal if it works. If it doesn't work, you swing and miss, a lot of green grass behind you. And as good as their safeties are at Michigan, Mikey Sanders still, I think, is a stud, one of my favorite players to watch in college football. It's tough to do that against guys like Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk and all the freak shows they have in that wide receiver room. So keep an eye on that. Now for Washington, the ball placement for Michael Penix Jr., by nature of what we just said, is going to be massive. And I don't just mean he's got to be accurate because that's the obvious. Of course, you need to bring your best on a stage like this. But I anticipate the windows against this Michigan defense to be really, really minimal. Meaning, as accurate as he was in that Texas game, I think you need the exact same kind of output. Because it might be a lot of back shoulder when Will Johnson's man-to-man with Rome Odunze. It might be a lot of, hey, layer that football over the linebacker in front of the safety to Jack Westover. It's going to take pinpoint accuracy and not just making the right decision, but putting the ball in the right spot. It sounds obvious, but I promise you, with as tight and as physical of coverage I expect Michigan to play, that will be paramount. Rome Odunze, he sets the table for this offense. He's going to challenge vertically. They're going to call a fair amount of plays for him to go vertical. He's got to win one-on-one. That's obvious. We've talked about that. But when he wins one-on-one, or even with the attention he demands, he's going to set the table. But who's going to eat the scraps is Jack Westover. We talked about him a little bit in our prize pick segment. When Washington spreads you out the way that they do and puts pressure on your secondary and forces you to drop back and sink deep, what that leaves is a lot of green grass underneath. And so if you get Jack Westover on a tight end, I think that's advantage Washington. That'll be massive in this game. You need him to come up big for you to keep the chains moving. Because as good as your wide receivers are, I don't know that it'll be a thing where they're just open from the jump. Like, I don't think it's going to be a thing where, hey, 4 quarters, it was just a clinic from Rome Odunze. It was a clinic from Jalen Polk. Like, I expect them to have good games, but you got to have some other answers outside of your fastball. Washington averaging 9 yards a pass, top 10 in the country. They're averaging 350 yards a game passing the football, number 1 in the country. There's a reason why they're as good as they are. Jack Westover has to do his part in this game. I think he will. I think they'll call upon him pretty frequently. Now, when it comes to the game overall, man, my final thought on the game, we've already given you our pick, given you our predictions, so go check that video out if you have not already, after this live show, of course. I think this is going to be a game where neither side is able to really gain that separation like we talk about. Now, the separation, to be honest, I think if it were to happen, would favor Washington the most. Like, they would be the team that's hardest to catch if they get up 14-3 or 17-7 or whatever it might be. But, like, in this spot, with the mismatch on the line of scrimmage for Michigan, or for Washington, rather, I guess, the advantage for Michigan on the line of scrimmage, I think they're going to be able to answer scores and at the very least be able to hold the football and extend drives and give their offense a chance to keep Michigan, or keep Washington, rather, within arm's reach. And when I say arm's reach, I mean it's not going to be a thing where they have to just consistently and routinely chase points against Washington. I think this is going to be a game that we could see 13-10 at half or 21-17 at half, favoring either side of this thing. Like, I think it'll be close all the way through the game. So, just by nature of the styles and by nature of the way that Michigan is going to challenge Washington to meet them in the hole over and over again, it's going to be a good one. This is not going to be your 65-7 blowout you got last year. Get the caffeine. Tell the kids it's going to be a long night. Tell them we got to lock in for this one, because I expect this to be every bit of the 4 quarters that we bargained with. And now, to give you a little sneak peek into our game prediction, if you haven't watched it yet, we think this is a field goal either way. So if that gives you any gauge on how we feel about the line, we think the points, if you're giving Washington 4.5, we like Washington 4.5, but regardless, think a field goal decides it either way. So we can't wait for it. It's going to be a movie. We're going to be there, and want to hear your pick in this game as well. So let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comment section. And get at me on social media at JD Pickell who you think is winning this football game. Those are our final thoughts. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.